You gave up your first-class seat for a stranger. Are you out of your mind? That's what they shouted at her, voices dripping with disbelief. But Sarah Miller didn't flinch. She saw him, a wounded veteran sitting all alone, his scars screaming stories no one dared to hear. And without a second thought, she handed over the one luxury she might never taste again. A simple act of kindness, she figured, nothing more, right? Oh, how wrong she was. Months later, can you believe it, an army convoy roared up her dusty dirt road. Strangers in sharp uniforms poured out, ready to rebuild her crumbling farm. And that man she helped. A hero who'd saved dozens. This is the tale of how one quiet choice planted seeds of kindness that bloomed into a life-changing harvest. Stick around, you'll never see a small gesture the same way again. Welcome to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where compassion and heart take center stage. Let's dive into what really happened. Picture Sarah Miller standing at the edge of her family's tiny farm in rural Georgia, the early morning mist wrapping around those weathered fence posts like sleepy ghosts. Beyond her fields, that two-lane highway stretched out like a silver lifeline, twisting toward places she'd only dreamed of. Her rubber boots sank into the damp earth as she leaned on the creaky wooden gate, cradling a steaming mug of coffee in her hands. 29 years old, can you imagine, and she'd never stepped beyond the nearby counties. Her whole world was that farm, a rickety old relic her late parents left behind, and the little Saturday farmer's market where she hawked her hand-picked veggies and homemade jam. She didn't hate it, no way. There was something noble in wresting life from that stubborn soil, in greeting every sunrise like an old pal, in knowing every bump in the dirt road by heart. But sometimes, under a sky bursting with stars, Sarah would lie awake, her chest aching. Would she ever see more? She dreamed of endless city streets, oceans too vast to fathom, mountains so tall they'd steal her breath away. Travel? A pipe dream. The farm barely scraped by, she patched the roof herself, tinkered with the tractor using borrowed bits, and stretched every dime after feed and seed. Airplane tickets, hotels, vacations, those were for someone else's life. Until, bam, an invitation crashed into her world. A thick, creamy envelope landed in her mailbox, her name scrawled in that familiar, loopy handwriting. Sarah ripped it open with her calloused fingers and yanked out a wedding invite from Amanda Clark, her college roommate, the one friend who never forgot her after she came back to run the farm. Amanda was tying the knot in Seattle. And tucked inside? A printed plane ticket, courtesy of Amanda's frequent flyer miles. I won't take no for an answer, Amanda scribbled at the bottom. You're coming, Sarah. You deserve this adventure. Sarah stared at that ticket, her heart pounding. Seattle. A real trip. But how? She'd need someone to mind the farm, scrape cash for clothes, figure out airports. Yet, under all that nervous jumble, a thrill sparked to life. Could this be her chance? 2 weeks later, there she was at the tiny regional airport, gripping her boarding pass like it might vanish. She'd thrown on her best jeans, a crisp flannel shirt, and polished her worn leather boots until they gleamed. Everything felt alien, the buzzing crowds, the robotic voice blaring over speakers, those flashing boards crammed with codes and times. She found her gate, plopped into a plastic chair by the window, and watched planes roll across the tarmac. A grin crept up, out of place. Sure. But alive? Absolutely. Excuse me, miss. Is this seat taken? Sarah spun around and met the tired eyes of an older man, leaning hard on a cane. His right leg barely bent as he lowered himself down, scarred hands clutching that cane like it was his anchor. An old army cap sat low on his head, its faded emblem a mystery to her. No, go ahead, she said, sliding her bag over. He nodded a quiet thanks and settled in, saying nothing more. But Sarah noticed, oh, how she noticed, how folks shifted away, dodging his gaze, sneaking peeks at his scars, or pretending he wasn't there. That silence hit her hard. She'd lived it with her dad in his last years, when cancer whittled him down and folks didn't know what to say. She flashed a warm smile, and after a pause, he gave one back, faint but real, peeking out from under that cap. Flight Woven 23 to Seattle, now boarding, the loudspeaker barked. Sarah stood, smoothing her jeans. Group 3, her ticket said. But as she shuffled toward the gate, an airline worker waved her over. Miss Miller, congrats. You've snagged a first-class upgrade today. Sarah froze. What? Me? The woman grinned. Yep, enjoy it. She joined the first-class line, feeling eyes on her from the Group 4 and 5 crowd. It was unreal, like she'd slipped into a dream. Handing over her ticket, she glanced back at the man with the cane, wrestling his beat-up duffel onto his shoulder, limping toward coach. 14 hours in a middle seat. Ouch. The gate agent chirped, enjoy your flight, Miss Miller. Sarah paused. Then, why not, she turned back. Sir, she called, weaving through the line. Want to switch seats? He blinked, shocked. I couldn't, please, she pressed, thrusting out her pass. You deserve it more. The crowd stirred, some staring outright. He looked at her, eyes flickering, pride, weariness, gratitude all tangled up. With a shaky hand, he took it. Thank you, he rasped, voice thick. Have a great flight, she said, beaming. She grabbed his old economy ticket, her heart soaring. Who knew this little move would rewrite her story? Squeezing into that tight economy seat, Sarah stashed her tote bag and braced herself as the plane filled up. The air turned heavy, engine oil, stale air, too many bodies. She squirmed, second-guessing her choice. But then she peeked ahead, past the sea of seats, and saw him settling into a plush first-class chair. A flight attendant bent down, smiling real and kind, no pity there. Jim Carter, maybe that was his name, looked out of his element but so grateful, scarred hands gripping the armrests like he couldn't believe it. Sarah relaxed, a quiet peace settling in. Maybe goodness didn't always fade away unnoticed. That flight. Torture. 14 hours dragged on, her neighbor snored like a chainsaw, a kid across the aisle kept dropping a tablet, bang, and the food? Bleh. Coffee. Bitter as regret. Bathroom treks were a nightmare. But through it all, Sarah felt lifted. Hadn't she made a difference? Mid-flight, she stretched her legs, passing the first-class curtain. There he was, gazing out the window, not dozing like the others, just thinking, softer now, less guarded. Their eyes locked for a split second. He nodded, respect, not just thanks. She nodded back, heart full. Landing in Seattle, the airport hummed with tired travelers. Sarah lost sight of him in the chaos, baggage claim, rushing families, sprawling terminals. Should she have asked his name? Maybe. But some moments shine brightest left alone. Amanda's wedding. Pure magic. In a vineyard nestled in the hills, it was simple, soulful. Sarah laughed, danced, toasted strangers who hugged her like kin. She breathed it all in, flowers, breeze, freedom. This was living. Back home in economy, stiff-legged again, she didn't care. It was worth every second. Life settled back, chores, market days, endless fixes. That flight, that veteran, became a golden memory. She'd done right, no reward needed. So when engines growled down her road one windy Saturday, Sarah figured it was the neighbor's kids. She tossed on a jacket, muttering about their trucks. But outside, her breath stopped. Military Humvees. Here. 3 of them parked on her drive, soldiers spilling out, boots crunching gravel. A black SUV idled behind, dust swirling. And leading them? Jim Carter. Not the broken passenger now, he stood tall in dress uniform, medals glinting, that limp a quiet echo of his battles. He smiled, warm, real. Sarah stumbled off the porch, heart racing. What was this? Everything was shifting, she knew it. She barely cleared the steps when Jim stepped close, metals catching the light. "Miss Miller," he said, steady and kind, "good to see you again." Words failed her, soldiers, Humvees, him. He chuckled. "You're as shocked as I was." What's happening?" she stammered, laughing. He nodded to the SUV. A suited man handed her an envelope, her name in neat script. Inside, a certificate gleamed with the Army's crest, praising her kindness to Colonel James Carter, a hero. For her. "You didn't know me," he said, sheepish. "That's why it mattered so much." Sarah Miller stood frozen, her eyes darting over the crisp, official words again and again. Certificate of recognition for an act of extraordinary kindness and humanity toward a veteran of the United States Armed Forces. The Department of the Army extends its deepest gratitude to Miss Sarah Miller. Her actions embody the spirit of compassion, respect, and dignity that every soldier fights to protect. Presented by Colonel James Carter, 3rd Special Forces Group Airborne. Can you believe it? A colonel? Her heart skipped. Jim Carter wasn't just some weary traveler she'd helped on a plane. He was a colonel in one of the Army's most elite units. Who even was this man she'd stumbled into knowing? She looked up, her breath catching, and met his steady gaze. He raised a hand, almost shyly. "You didn't know who I was," he said softly. "And that's exactly why it meant so much." "Oh, how could that be?" Behind him, soldiers were bustling, unloading something massive from a Humvee. Metal clinked, wood thudded against the ground. "What on earth? What are they doing?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, trembling with awe. Jim's smile turned playful, almost mischievous. "We brought you something. A few things, actually." Sarah's pulse raced as she watched 2 soldiers haul a huge wooden crate toward her porch. Another group unpacked what looked like, construction materials. Planks, wire, tools. "What is this?" she demanded, louder now, her curiosity bursting. Jim faced her fully, his stance suddenly formal, like a soldier on parade. "You gave me comfort and dignity when you had no reason to," he said, his voice steady and true. "You gave up something precious, a seat that could have made your journey easier, just to make mine bearable." Sarah shook her head, baffled. "It was just a seat," she protested. "It wasn't," Jim replied, gentle but firm. "Not to me." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a hush meant only for her. "I was coming back from a treatment program in Seattle, burn recovery, surgery after surgery. Most days I felt like I wasn't even human anymore, just a set of scars people wanted to forget." "Oh, how could anyone not see him?" Sarah's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. "That day on the plane," he went on, "it was the first time in months someone saw me, not the injuries, not the uniform, just me." A chilly breeze swept across the farm, a crow cawing in the distance. Jim's tone lifted, warm and bright. "So, we thought it was only fair to repay a little of that kindness." He gestured to the crates, the materials. "We're going to rebuild your barn." Sarah gasped, "Did he just say that?" "What?" Jim nodded, grinning. "One of the guys in my unit runs a construction company now. When I told the team what you did, they volunteered, took leave, flew in on their own time. They wanted to do this, not just for me, for you." Her eyes flew to the barn, her father's old pride, sagging and broken since last spring's storm. She'd patched it desperately, but it was beyond her. "You don't have to," she stammered, her voice breaking with emotion. Jim's face softened. "We want to." And just like that, the day exploded into action. Soldiers moved with precision and laughter, measuring, cutting, hammering, fixing her barn. They strung up new fencing, swapped out rotten beams, shored up walls, their voices ringing with jokes and joy. The farm pulsed with life, a vibrancy Sarah hadn't felt since her parents were gone. Carrying lemonade out to the crew, she paused beside Jim, marveling at the scene. "You didn't have to do all this," she murmured, her heart full. He glanced at her, eyes twinkling. "You didn't have to give up your seat." She laughed. "Oh, what a comeback." "Fair enough," she said, her throat tight with gratitude. They stood there, two souls tangled by fate, forever altered by one fleeting choice. As the sun sank, painting the fields gold, Jim turned to her. "There's one more thing," he said, fishing a small, worn coin from his jacket. "This is a challenge coin," he explained, pressing it into her palm. "It's something we pass between soldiers to recognize acts of valor, loyalty, or brotherhood." Sarah flipped it over, 3rd Special Forces group emblem on one side, deeds, not words, on the other. "It's not given lightly," Jim added. "And it's rarely given to civilians." Tears welled up. How could this be hers? "I don't know what to say," she whispered, overwhelmed. Jim smiled. "You already said it when you saw me." Kindness, she realized, wasn't small, it was colossal. It spanned gaps, sprouted hope in weary souls, and sometimes, oh, sometimes, it rolled up in a convoy. The barn gleamed now, its fresh red paint bold against the green fields. Sarah leaned on the porch railing, watching the final nails go in. It was stunning, like a dream, not the wreck she'd nearly lost hope on. In one day, everything shifted, not just the barn, but her spirit. As the soldiers packed up, Jim approached. "We'll be heading out soon," he said, a soft sadness in his tone. She nodded, an ache blooming at the thought of their leaving. Then he handed her a manila folder. "There's one more thing." Inside, a letter from the Veterans Affairs and a check. Her jaw dropped at the amount. "Jim, what is this?" she gasped. "The guys pitched in," he said, sheepish. "Some from the Veterans Fund, some from us. We wanted to make sure the farm stays yours for good." It was enough to erase her tax worries, fix the house, buy a tractor, more than she'd dared dream. Not charity, but gratitude, raw and real. She clutched the folder, stunned. "I don't know what to say." Jim's smile was quiet. "Then don't. Just promise me you'll keep growing things here." She laughed through tears. Oh, how could she not? "That, Colonel Carter, I can promise." The convoy roared off at sunset, fading into the cicadas' song. Sarah waved until they were gone, the check in her hand, the breeze cool on her face. Her world felt vast, radiant now. Next morning, she was up with the sun, feeding chickens, tending crops, hauling water, but it all felt lighter, like freedom. In town, folks stopped her. Had they seen the convoy? Heard the buzz? Landry tipped his cap, Mrs. Greaves gave muffins, old Mr. Holloway muttered, "A quiet good girl." She didn't spill the whole tale, some wonders stay close to the heart. A week later, Jim's letter came, simple, heartfelt. "Dear Sarah, I've been thinking about that day on the plane. When I got hurt overseas, I thought I'd lost everything, my purpose, my belief in people. You gave it back without knowing. You didn't just give a seat, you gave me a reason to believe. Stay stubborn. Stay kind. Keep growing things. If you're near Fort Bragg, there's a place at my table, always. Respectfully, Jim Carter." She tucked it in her bedside box, smiling at the stars. Somewhere, a near stranger carried her kindness, and she'd keep sewing it, trusting it could still shake the world. Summer faded to fall, and her fields erupted, pumpkins, apples, the scent of earth and woods. The farm thrived, the barn a proud centerpiece. Neighbors waved, brought gifts. Sarah wasn't just the farm girl anymore, she was a beacon. At the market, she set out a box, take what you need, pay what you can. Bread, notes, a steady $20 under her apples, kindness circled back, mysterious and sweet. One frosty November night, she stood in her fields, boots crunching, breathing hope, unshakable, even in winter. That Christmas, she sent cards, sketches of her snowy farm. To Amanda, for the ticket, to the Veteran Fund, unsigned, and to Jim, dear Jim, the farm stands. So do I. The seeds you helped plant, kindness, faith, stubbornness, grow strong. You said rescue isn't always on the battlefield. You're right, sometimes it's a seat, a barn rebuilt by strangers turned family. I hope you're growing things, too. Merry Christmas, Colonel. Always, Sarah. She mailed it, grinning at the winter sky, no reply needed. Spring would dawn, fields would bloom, and she'd keep planting. Kindness never stopped, it waited, sure and patient, for its season. In our darkest hours, kindness whispers through, often unnoticed. Some heroes shun the spotlight, just easing today's burdens, and that can rewrite a life. Forget the tale, and history fades. Sarah's story stirs something deep within me, a fervent belief that kindness isn't just a fleeting gesture but a vital force that can reshape lives and societies. I'm moved to tears by the idea that one selfless act, like hers on that plane, can ignite a wildfire of change, breathing life into a weary community. It's not just inspiring, it's a gut-punch reminder of what we're capable of when we choose compassion over indifference. I feel passionately that our modern lifestyle, rushed, self-absorbed, and glued to screens, desperately needs this wake-up call. We're so quick to judge, to scroll past someone's pain, but Sarah saw Jim, really saw him, beyond his scars and struggles. That hits me hard. In a world obsessed with perfection, her empathy is a defiant stand for our shared humanity. I ache for more of that, for us to stop, look up, and truly see the people around us. It's not just nice, it's essential. Socially, I'm convinced we've lost sight of the sacrifices others make, like Jim, a veteran carrying invisible wounds. I feel a swell of gratitude and frustration, gratitude for their service, frustration that we don't honor it enough. Sarah's kindness wasn't just a gift to Jim, it was a quiet rebellion against a culture that overlooks the broken. I want that to change. I want us to live with eyes wide open, hearts unguarded, ready to lift each other up. This story fuels my hope and my resolve. I believe, no, I feel, that kindness is the heartbeat of a better world. It's not soft or weak, it's fierce, transformative, a lifeline we can't afford to ignore. So, I'm pleading with myself and everyone, let's live like Sarah. Let's make kindness our instinct, our legacy. Because if one small act can ripple out to heal a community, imagine what we could do together. That's the life I want to lead, the society I yearn to build. Subscribe to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where kindness shines, justice endures, and quiet valor lives on.